Hi guys, welcome to our channel, and the objective of this video is to practice and understand the usage of configuration commands, login and enable password, and service encryption password, and enable secret used in Cisco devices. There will be few questions on this in CCNA exams, and this lab will help you to understand and answer confidently. Let us start with this lab, and for this we are just need two devices, and we are using GNS3 tool, and one is the PC, which is Linux one, and another one is the router, and Cisco router. And we have opened up already a console connection to these devices, and also we have set up the IP address. The IP address of the PC is 192.168.0.2, and IP address on the router is set up as 192.168.0.1. This is a basic configuration, and we need to start this lab. Before starting, let's see the reachability, and also I will just show you the capture of the packets which can be done while doing the testing lab testing. And let me how to start a capture. Right click on this and start a capture, and it will open up the Wireshark. So in the Wireshark you can see the packets movements. Right now there is no packets, just some of the packets just flowing through now. And let's from the router we want to ping the PC and see what is the first of all let me show IP ARP table on the router. The ARP table have only the local interface right now and does not know the PC IP address. So what we will do when you start pinging, what happens? Let's check this option. So ping the PC IP address, as I said, 192.168.0.2. So when you issue a ping, there will be first time there will be a ping loss. That is because there is a broadcast, and then after that a ping succeed. So show IP ARP table will have now the ARP address of the PC, that is hardware address. Okay, and you can see in the capture. So what happens when you start the ping? There is a broadcast. It's asking, the router is asking who is having 192.168.0.2, that is address resolution protocol. You can see that request, and it's a broadcast, and it is broadcast, and so the broadcast address of Ethernet frame destination address, if you see here, it is FFFFF, and the source is the router source address. So it's sent to the all the devices in the network. Since it does not know the MAC address of the device, target MAC address is not known. That's why first ARP is sent, and once there is a response from the device which is phoning this IP address, and it provides I am the one, and I have the IP address of CA00, and this is sent to the source. The source is B4. This is the MAC address of the PC. It is so it is sent, and then it notes down in the table. So after that, a ping with the number of ping 1 2 3 4 4 pings should be successful. Yeah, so when you send a ping, there is a reply, and request, reply, request, reply. You will see that request, reply, response. So this is how the ping works, and this is how we can also do a capture of the packet. This is for your information. And next, let's move on to the lab for testing those configuration commands. Now we are into the lab now, and let's see from the PC whether we are able to telnet to the router. So telnet is the command, telnet 192.168.0.1, that is the router IP. Telnet to that. Okay, it's telnet is allowed, but it says password required but not set. So we can check in the configuration of the router what is currently. Show running config will show you the what is the configuration, but I am going to take only the part where we have the VTY configuration. So I put a pipe command, and then I will just, it will only show the section where VTY command is there. So I will say line. If I say line, then it will show you the, so we have, these are the in the configuration, this is for the console connection, line console 0, and these are the parameters configured for the line, and there is auxiliary port on the router, and this is the configuration for the auxiliary port. If you look for the line VTY 0 and 04, that is the basically the connection which we are connecting from the PC. There is no config, there is a login configuration is there, but there is no password is set. So what I will do, I will remove login actually, and what happens we will see. So you go to config T is the router configuration, and then you go to the line VTY 04 and say no login. That means you are going to remove the login, okay, and then just see after exit, okay, exit, and just exit. Now if you check the session command, you will see that there is no there is nothing on the VTY, there is no login is there. Now if you try to telnet, what happens? Telnet, it goes, okay, and without asking for the password. So if you have a login, then we need to set up the password under the VTY. Okay, so this is one of the thing we should understand, that if you are able to telnet directly and there is no password is asked, that means there is no login set up under the VTY. So if login is set up, then it will ask. So let's move on to the next part, that is to set a password and try to log in. Okay, just go to config T again, and then set up the config T, and then you go to the line VTY 04, and then you say login. Okay, that is one line, and then okay, password is not set, so it automatically says that okay, now we will set password we will set it as test1. okay, now we set the password. Now we will try to exit from here and try to log in. What happens now? If you telnet and it's asking for the password is test1. So we are logged in the telnet session with the password test1. So we are good now. So we are able to set up a password, and it is logged in. There is also one more thing we should learn on this login command, that is called login. Then we can say whether to use username and password. So what we will change the configuration now here, and we will say login, but we will login local. Login local in sense it needs username and password, and this will be in the configuration file, global config. So login local is being set up. So if you set up login local, what happens is, now let's exit and try to log in here. What happens, we will just verify. Telnet to this. So it's asking for username, but we don't have set up any username and password. So how we are going to do that? So that's why we will go to config, global config mode, and then you put username Cisco, whatever you want to give, it's up to you, and the password I will put test2, so that we will keep a different password for that. Okay, users is test2. This is username Cisco, and the password is test2. I think we should type a word called password test, and then we say password, then test2. That is how it is syntax. Okay, so now here you can try to log in as user Cisco, then password test1, it will not go, because you see I will try to put Cisco test2, we have to use test2. So you are able to set up login local, and then you are able to and after that in the global config we are adding username Cisco and username, and then we are able to get into the router with the from the PC using um, username and the password. Okay, let me summarize the presentation, what we have learned so far. That is, we configured in the router under line VTY04 login command, and we found that it needs a password. Without password, we cannot log in from the PC. And so that what we did is we configure password and test in the VTY configuration. Under VTY configuration, then we were able to log in using the telnet session using a password test. Then we tried also to use no login option. So no login option, when you telnet from the PC, it does not require it does not require a password. It just gets in log into the system, that is a Cisco router. And the other option also we tested with the login command, which is under line VTY04 is 0 is the starting port, and four connections, basically T2A connections. So in this one login local, if you configure, then what it requires is in the global config mode you need to create username. You have to create a username and a password, and with this we were able to log in when you are login local option. So there is one more thing which I am going to demo on this particular thing, because we have in the global config mode we have used username Cisco and password test. So what happens when you are in the configuration, when you display the configuration, the password test one, whatever the password you have set, will appear in the configuration screen. So if you want to encrypt this password not to be appearing on the screen, then there is a option in the global config which we need to set, that is service password encryption command. If you add this in the global config, automatically the password will be encrypted in the configuration. We will not be able to view the password. This one I will demo, and after that we will pass on to the further testing of other commands. Okay, we are in router R1, and we will just show running config, and we will just look for the username and password configure in the config section of the configuration. SEC is basically section. We instead of running through the whole configuration, we just see a part of it which has a line called username on the configuration. So when you click here, you see there is in the configuration there is called username Cisco and password. If you want to do it show running configuration also, we can do. I just made it a short command, ru show running config, run. So if you run this one, you will see that full configurations, right? Here you can see that normally this is set as no service password encryption. Okay, that's what we will test it now. But now before that, there is a username Cisco and password is configured as test2. So after we enable the parameter, that is basically service password encryption, we will see what is the change we are seeing in the configuration. Okay, let me go to config T. Configure T terminal basically, and then we just put service password encryption. What happens now? After that you can exit and check. If you want to look into show running configuration, a full configuration also, we can look into it. Like see, if you see here, service password encryption is now enabled on the configuration global config, and we will look for the username. So username, and you see the password is now, you cannot see the text password. We are just, it has been encrypted. So this is what happens using a service password encryption command in the global config. There could be a question in the CCNA exam, what is the how to hide the password in the console. On the configuration is to use username and password in the service encryption. Password encryption you have to enable. Then further to this, the next chapter we will be next labs we will be working on Cisco global config commands, basically enable password, enable. Okay, let me just run this show running config section. So you see the password is encrypted and you cannot see the password. The next global config command which we are going to look is enable password, and this by default the enable password the privilege level is 50. So we can see those commands how it is allowing us to move to the privilege level. Okay, so if you use enable, it needs a password. So without password you cannot. So we need to set enable password always. So we can test those commands and see. So enable password will be like plain text in the configurations, and to encrypt this, then again we need to have service password encryption, then it will be the password will be encrypted. So let's see it in the lab how it works. Okay, so let me show it from the beginning. From the PC you are trying to terminate to the router, username and the Cisco and password. So now you are in the logged into the router, but now if you what is the privilege show privilege, what is the command show privilege. Okay, so we are always in the level 1. Level 1 cannot do much commands on the default level 1 it is. So if you want to go to the configuration level to execute configuration commands, you should be in privilege level 50. So we just put enable. What happens? So enable, if it will go to default is 15, but what happens is even you see there is a message authentication privilege failed on ETY 0062. You get a console message. So there is no password, enable password set. So we need to set enable password if you want to go to the privilege level. Config T. So I will set enable password. Then I will set test3. Okay. So now after setting the password, I think I should be able to enable mode, and password is test3. Okay. So you are in the privilege mode. Now you can run this command show privilege. You will see that you are in the level 15. So which you can execute. You can go to config T, etc. So you are the highest privilege. So you need to have enable password if you want to go to the privilege modes other than default one. Default one is 1 actually. So with the enable command we can move to the privilege mode. That is what you have seen it in the lab now. So now the next one more thing I want to show is about the password set in the enable password, or how is it visible or not. So running configuration section enable. Okay, enable password we set for the privilege mode and we set it as test3. See, it is shown in the configuration. Again, this has to be encrypted, means we need to have service password encryption enabled, because I disabled it after service password. After you set it in the global config, if this is enabled, all the passwords will not be seen in the configurations show config. So let me check again now. Means it will be in encrypted form. show running config section. See, it's encrypted now. You cannot able to read the what is the password set for it. So that's how it is done using the service encryption password. And we will also see the other method. Basically, there is also called enable secret, which we will discuss after this. The next global config commands we are going to discuss is about the enable password and enable secret. The enable secret we already enable password we already did the lab. So using the enable command you are able to move to the privilege mode. So if you don't set the enable password, when you are trying to move to the privilege mode like enable, it will not allow. So from the any terminals, external terminals. So we need to type, we need to enable password, we need to set it up. That's what we saw in the previous lab. But now that is enable password, it is it's going to the default privilege mode, that is basically level 15. So there is, but the password was visible, and if you use service encryption password, then we were able to hide the password. But here now, to if you don't want to encrypt the user password in the config file, then only for the privilege mode we want to keep it as encrypted. We don't need to have service encryption password enabled. We can just say enable secret and we set the password. This will be for the level 15, default level 15 password, basically for highest privilege level. So let's test what happens when you have enable password, also enable secret, which will be taken for the highest privilege. So let me start the lab for this, and we will verify the differences. Now we will start our lab. Let's try to first telnet to the router from the PC, and it's asked for the password. Okay, let's enter the password. When you enter the password, you are in the privilege mode. Default one is level 1. So when you want to go to the highest privilege, and you type enable command, it will say no password set. Okay. Now what we will do, we will set first enable password. Okay. Enable password, enable password. I will set test 2. Okay. So I set the password, enable password set test 2, and I am going to move to enable mode. Okay, I put the password test 2. So I was able to go into the enable mode. Okay, now enable password, we were able to use it and move to the privilege mode on this PC telnet. This is video password is test 2, test 1 actually, and then we can move to enable mode. Enable password is set already, so you can say test 2. Now we are going to test one more thing. Going to enable mode, but we will also use enable secret. Enable secret test 3. I will say test 3. So now we will see which one it will ask while logging from the PC and moving to the enable mode. Enable secret or test 3. So now we are on the PC, and we will try to telnet to the router, and I will try password. First, this is video password is test 1, and now we are trying to put to enable mode. So in enable mode, I will try the password test 2. Okay, test 2 if it works or not now. Test 2, no. Again, test 2, no. So what I will do, I will try test 3 now, which is set as enable secret test 3. I was able to move to privilege level, show privilege. If you see 15 level, so I am in the highest privilege. Okay, now we had in the configuration, let me show the configuration. Show running config and pipe, and then you give a gap and then put SS section which is containing in the configuration called enable. Okay, we will see 2 things here. We will have 2 lines. See, enable secret password is automatically encrypted, but enable password is not encrypted because you just check for a section called service. So service password, what is the setting in the global config? So it is not enabled, so you see that, but enable secret password, whatever you set, it is always encrypted on the configuration. So you don't need to have this service password encryption, does not matter, but the enable password always it is shown in the text. So to have this encrypted, we need to enable the service, so then that will be encrypted. So I will go to config mode and service password encryption. I will enable service password. So if I enable this, and then we will just check what is the status here. So here if you see here config service password, what is this, we will say section enable. So you see now both passwords are okay. The enable password, if you want to hide it in the configuration, we need to have service password encryption is enabled. Enable secret password is, even though if it does not exist, it still it will be kept it as a secret only, that is it is already encrypted one. So that is the difference. So there could be a question in the CCNA exam that if you have enable password set, also you have enable secret set in the global config, what could happen when you are trying to log in, which is the password it will use? Always enable secret exists, it will be using the enable secret to move to the privilege mode. If does not exist, it will use the enable password. That's how it is. I can confirm that also. Now no enable secret I can do in the config T, no enable secret. Okay, now I removed it from the configuration. In this case, what will be the configuration? Only we have enable password. Now I will try to log in with the enable password and see how it's allowing me to move to. Okay, Cisco password is test1. So now I will try to go to enable mode. Now I will try the password test2. So I am in the privilege mode 15 level. So it is using the enable password which I set it. So I hope it's clear now about the global config command, enable password, enable secret. Whenever both are configured, it will use enable secret as the preference. If it is not configured, it will use enable password. And always enable secret is always encrypted. So these are the important things we need to learn from this lab. Okay, let's connect console through console. What happens? Start console connection. So just you get a console from, just you enter, you are inside the console. It didn't ask for anything, right? So what we will do, we will change in the configuration under the line console. We will add login option. So what is the effect of adding a login option under the line console? So config key line console 0. So I will say login. What happens when I do this login? And then so it says that login is disabled until the password is set. So we need to set the password also. Password. Okay, I will set password as test3. I will set. Okay, now I set the password also. Now let's see here. I will exit. So if you want, I can try again, close this session and try to launch a console connection. So it should not, so it will ask for a password. So you need to enter the password what you have set. See test3. test3. So you are able to get it. So if you look into the section command under VTY, we have set the password, right? Show running config 5 section line command. Look, see now under the line console 0 we added login, so that's why it is asking once you add login we need to set the password also, then only it will allow to log in from the console with the password. You can go to privilege mode, you will with the password. Okay, you want to have login through a console using username and password. In this case what we need to do, so right now if you click on the console it's asking only password, it's not asking for the exit here, just exit it. Now username only, username is asking and password is asking. Okay, because in the login configuration we have put login local, that's why it's asking for the username and password, and it is okay. Let's look into the configuration. Exit here, show line. Let's check here, we put login local, so it's asking for username and password. If you don't put that, it will only look for the password. So you need to set up username and password for that, right? So what you do, config key. So you get into this one section, you just say username is there. Nothing is there, so config key, username, Cisco, okay, and password test4, okay. So now what we will try, we'll try now. Login name Cisco, user test4. So you log in, but you are not in the privilege mode, so we need to move to privilege mode. What we is required is enable. So is it, there is an enable set in the configuration. Let's check it out. Enable is it here, enable password is set or not. So running configuration section enable is set. Yeah, enable password is already set, we have set, so we should be able to get into the enable mode with just passwords. I think it is test3 test2. We are able to get into the, so you are able to log in as a normal user, whatever the username, and if you want to move to the enable mode, you can move to enable mode using the enable password. If you are enable secret configured, you will be able to get into the using the enable secret password. So you know now console setting, which you can set under the line console. You can set login. When you set login means then you need to set a password, so that means it will never ask for username. You can log in with this password, and in case if you want to use username and password, you can add a login local option and it will use username and password. And after that, if you have to go to enable mode, you have to use enable, and you should have enable password set. You can able to get into the enable mode. So that's all in this video. I hope you have learned something which will help you for answering questions in the CCNA exams. Thank you very much. If you like this video, please share it, and we will see further more labs in further videos. Thank you.